going to call the public hearing on the budget is first. Sorry. I'm just going by the written agenda you have in front of you, if that's okay. So, written comments read by clerk. Do we have any? None. Public comments. Is there anybody who wishes to speak in the budget meeting? If you're here to speak in the regular meeting on another issue, this wouldn't be the time, but if there is anyone from the public who wishes to speak on the proposed 2025 budget, you are welcome to do so. Is there anyone who wishes to speak? Anyone who wishes to speak? All right. We'll look for on your pads. We'll be prepared. Is there a motion to adjourn the hearing budget meeting? We have a motion by Supervisor Vollenweider, second by Supervisor Gillett. Are we prepared to vote on that motion? You may register your vote. Supervisor Baker, Supervisor Romden.
Jamie, I have no power.
Very sensitive device. Well, I don't know what we should draw from it if the longest part of the public hearing on the budget is getting Supervisor Baker's voting pad operating. Yes, well, this should make the next meeting go quite smooth. Okay, how about that? 18 yes, none opposed. Motion carries. The public hearing on the proposed 2025 budget is adjourned. Now, call to order the regular county board meeting. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and prayer. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We pray. Lord of heaven and earth, we know that you hold all things in your hands. In your mercy, provide for the needs of those who have been affected by Hurricane Helene and Hurricane Milton and other disasters. Work through those who bring relief and aid. Protect all from any further harm. Let your presence be a comfort to all who are impacted by these disasters. And we trust and grant that at all times we would trust in your protection. We pray for your peace to fill our hearts. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Okay. Roll call. We have Supervisor Lazansky is out of the country and she has to be excused. Supervisor Ortlieb is absent. We will move on. I need a motion. You may, if somebody would make a motion to approve okay, we have a motion by Supervisor Yonke to approve the agenda and seconded by Supervisor Poppy. You may register your vote. Supervisor Poppy? There we go. I have 18 yes, none opposed. Motion carries. If there is a motion to approve the previous minutes, motion by Supervisor Swagel, seconded by Supervisor Kroll. Is there any discussion of that motion? Yes, Supervisor Lukes.
On the highway committee, I had mentioned this to Gary.
they have the date for the next highway meeting, then 17th. It's actually the 24th.
Correct. I was gonna bring that up at the minutes, but that's fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, you mean reports. This is the minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions on the minutes that you have previous meeting? All right, very well. You may register your vote. Supervisor Poppy, there we go. 18 yes, none opposed, motion carries. Appointments. We have appointments we're ready for.
Kewaunee County Local Emergency Planning Committee, term September 12th, 24 to September 12th, 26.
Very well, is there a motion?
Thing went down now.
Yes, Supervisor Patricia?
I believe we skipped over citizenship, but just FYI.
Yes, we did. That's because it's not on here. Where? Oh, there it is. Okay, yep. We'll come back. Maybe we should go to that while,
Yeah, you can go ahead.
okay. So we're having technical difficulties on this, so unless the parliamentarian says I can't, even though we have a motion and a second, I'm gonna move, back to citizens input. Is there anyone who, it's okay. Is there anyone who wishes to speak to the board? Anyone who wishes to speak to the board? Yes, sir. If you want to come up to the microphone and we can make sure that it's green over there. Otherwise, they'll never hear you in the back. It's good. No, the peanut gallery wants to hear.
Good afternoon or evening or whatever you want to call it. My name is Dan Porras. I'm Village Luxembourg. I was here 15 years ago, complaining about the same thing as going on with you guys now, and half of you guys weren't on the board. I belong to the KCDC, and you were concerned about the funding that was going on and the work that we do, and everything that I guess the board does. And when I was on the board with, I started with, I can't even remember his name. And then I went to Jennifer Brown, and she worked her ass off, and she was really pushing hard. And I came to the board with her because you were questioning what she was doing. And again, we can't do every step that she made with the board that was in there to qualify, saying, I'm going to give you $50 or $100 or $20. You, I went through two other people. I was off the board, and I don't know what they were, but I asked them to do something for the village, and it sort of went over their heads, and they didn't do it. Now we got Ben, and he's working, he's intelligent, he does the stuff that we want him to do. And all of a sudden I hear this rumbling again with the board saying, well, we get $40,000 and I don't know what you're doing. And I don't see any of the major people that come to the meeting. That's just like me sitting on the side and saying, well, you guys should approve something that's not feasible. And I've got to tell you right now, we had a golf outing that was, we took in $9,000, and we have different things that are going, and Ben has been running around and trying to do grants and everything else. And if you guys want to go against it, you should go in his shoes then and follow him. Because you can't say he doesn't do anything or the board doesn't do anything, and we sit there and just talk and we don't get anything done. You're totally wrong. I can say that if you want to criticize us on that, I can criticize you guys for sitting here and not doing the right things either. We can really be picked apart. And all I'm saying is that the $40,000 is great. I mean, we all thank you for it and we appreciate it a lot. We're trying to be self-sufficient and do our own thing and get the money on it, but you go to companies now and say, well, you give a donation on the KCDC board, and companies right now are hard given to give money out. And it's a struggle on some companies that they don't give you $10,000 or $5,000 or $1,000. And that's where the problem is. And if you think that then none of us and then, oh, that's
If
time.
you could wrap up your comments, that's the bell.
Well, I got more time.
No,
Okay, well, I just wanted to say, I hope that the board don't take that money away. It's very significant for what we do, and we're trying to break this barrier of being self-sufficient and trying to do that. And it's harder than you think. And if any of you guys want to come and see how hard it is or easy it is, you're welcome to come to the board and don't follow me because I don't do as much, but follow Ben and he can do it for you. Thank you.
all right, thank you. And should we expect you back in another 15 years? Okay. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak to the board? Anyone who wishes to speak? Is there anyone else who wishes to speak to the board? Very well, we'll go back to the motion. We had motion by Supervisor Romden, second by Supervisor Augustine. And we were in the process of registering votes, and okay, now you can register your votes. All right. 18 yes, none opposed, motion carries. And we'll move on to reports. We have KCEDC, Ben Nelson, if you want to come forward. Looks like the microphone is still on for you.
Good evening. First, I'd like to say thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board, for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. I'm here to share progress specifically on our Project Homestead, provide some context for last month's KCEDC request for increased funding, and clarify some concerns that were raised during recent meetings. Before diving into the details, I'd like to acknowledge that at the October 4th Finance Committee meeting, the administrator had our funding request on the agenda. I was there ready to present a lot of the information that I'm going to talk about tonight. However, I was not provided the opportunity to speak or explain the case for additional funding, and no discussion involving our organization occurred around that request. I understand the pressures of time, but this led to a decision being made, or actually no decision being made, without the full context, which I hope to provide with you today. However, first, there were some concerns that were brought up at that Finance Committee meeting, and I'd like to address those to start this off. The first concern that I want to address was a question around transparency and the KCEDC. Our financial revenue, expense, and value add was added to your packets and is in your packets for tonight's meeting. That information is presented every year at our annual meeting, and then following our annual meeting is posted on our website for anybody to look at. Back in March, I stood before this county board and invited everybody to that annual meeting. There was also a question about who is our investors, who's investing in us, and how much are they giving. Our investor list is on our website as well. Although it won't list specific dollar amounts for each investor, it has them tiered into different categories. The last issue concerning transparency was regarding why does the KCEDC not share our board meeting minutes with the county board? As I explained in a letter sent to the full county board dated August 17th, 2021, which I passed out ahead of this meeting for those of you that were not on the board at that time, much of what we discuss in our board meetings involves confidential business matters often related to private sector negotiations or sensitive projects. Making these discussions public could risk compromising partnerships and jeopardizing these negotiations. We are committed to transparency where possible, but there are limits when it comes to safeguarding private sector relationships and sensitive project information. There was also some concern raised about why do we give money to a 501c3? And I think some clarification on our organizational structure is needed around that. To clarify, the nature of our organization, KCEDC, operates as a public-private partnership, a model that is distinctly different from a traditional 501c3. While both are nonprofit entities, our purpose and approach sets us apart in significant ways. A public-private partnership like KCEDC is designed to drive economic growth by bringing together the strengths of government, businesses, and the community to achieve common economic goals. Unlike a 501c3, which may rely heavily on donations and grants, our structure allows us to blend public funding with private investment. Again, private investment is listed on our website. We use those investments then to unlock larger opportunities for economic returns and community-wide impact. Our 501c3 status, on the other hand, simply defines how the IRS taxes our organization, but it doesn't fully capture the breadth of what we do. Our mission is more dynamic. We bridge the gap between public and private sectors, allowing us to take on ambitious projects that neither the government nor the businesses could or would pursue on their own. And Project Homestead is a classic example of that, which I will address later on. The final issue that was raised during that Finance Committee meeting was regarding a comment around 15 years ago that KCEDC would become self-sustaining. I've only been with the organization for 4 years, and it's important to understand that the economic development landscape has changed significantly over the course of 15 years. Public-private partnerships like ours require ongoing public investment to be effective. The reality is that economic development today requires sustained collaboration between both the public and the private sectors. The promise of becoming self-sustaining may have been made in a different economic climate, but KCEDC has still continued to create value for Kewaunee County with the resources that we have been given. In fact, in my time with KCEDC, we average anywhere from $4 to $7 million of economic value added each year. So we are still contributing to that larger cause. However, to truly accelerate and expand our work, especially with strategic projects like Project Homestead, we need additional support, which I will also explain. To fully understand the Project Homestead, it's important to highlight what led to this initiative. Over the past few years, KCEDC has conducted hundreds of business retention and expansion conversations with local companies, gaining deep insights into the challenges they face. Across nearly all of these discussions, one major theme emerged. We're short on workforce, we're short on talent, which ultimately points to a lack of housing. Our businesses consistently identify the lack of entry-level and workforce housing as a critical barrier to attracting and retaining talent. As a result, the KCEDC Board of Directors and I engaged in diligent strategic planning to address this challenge. We aligned our efforts with the findings from the county's very own 2021 housing study, which I also passed out the cover pages of that and the action items that were listed in that study. That study also underscored the urgent need for housing support for the local workforce in our community. This strategic alignment between the needs of local businesses and the county's housing needs is what gave rise to Project Homestead. It's the culmination of thoughtful, data-driven planning and a targeted response to what our local businesses and the broader community have identified they need the most. Speaking of Project Homestead, we've made significant progress on it. We've secured special grants, we've hired a consultant, and that they've already begun work on a thorough market analysis. This market analysis will provide specific housing type recommendations, revenue projections, seed fund evaluations to understand the financing landscape, site selection and ranking to determine the best places for development, a financial feasibility study, a review of regulation and zoning to identify any potential hurdles to development, an evaluation of the broader community impact, identifying key partners and resources, and finally, the next steps for site planning and actual implementation. This initiative directly aligns with the key items that are listed in the county's very own housing quality study of 2021. And I won't read off the goals. You can look at the goals there, but improving housing quality, new housing, and diversifying housing options are all laid out in that plan. We expect to complete this analysis, this very thorough analysis, by June or July of next year. The additional $20,000 that our board chair recommended at the last meeting will ensure that we can continue to move this project forward at full speed, giving us the capacity to implement the recommendations and better position us to secure additional funding for project execution. This project is not only strategically important to the county, but it aligns perfectly with the findings of your own study. It's important to note that in your housing study of 2021, it identified that 2/3 of the housing stock existing in the county is more than 50 years old. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when our housing stock is no longer viable. So what does this look like in terms of dollars and cents? Part of Project Homestead, we worked with the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation. We've done economic modeling on a housing development and what would that actually look like in terms of our community. So we evaluated using our median income of just over $77,000. So these houses are designed as entry-level homes within our median income. So if we construct 50 single-family homes, that would add over $19 million worth of new construction tax base to our county. It would produce 134 new jobs during construction and add $7.5 million in wages to our local economy during the construction phase. After the construction phase, it would add almost $4 million of new household income added to our local economy. That's money that will be now in our county that is not currently here. Overall, the project would bring $9.8 million worth of direct economic impact with an additional $4 million of indirect and induced effect into Kewaunee's county economy. What does that mean to the county? If we're successful with this, that will produce roughly on a very minimum scale over $140,000 worth of annual tax revenue year over year to the county. That goes into your levy, that goes into your budget, and that helps offset public expenditures and support for other local initiatives. So why do we need the increase of 40 to 60? Why did we make that ask? It's not just essential, it's critical to ensuring Kewaunee County remains competitive and prepared for future growth. If we stay at 40,000, our ability to deliver on transformative projects like Project Homestead, sorry, that's one of my kids on emergency bypass. If we stay at the $40,000, our ability to deliver on these projects like Project Homestead becomes constrained. Progress will be significantly slower, and we risk missing key opportunities to secure partnerships and fundings, and this delay could delay the development of much needed housing in our community, further widening the gap between our county and others that are rapidly advancing their economic development initiatives. At 60,000, we can accelerate the timeline of Project Homestead, delivering critical housing sooner to address the workforce challenges our local businesses have been facing. We can also allocate more resources to business retention and expansion, ensuring that we're actively supporting the most pressing needs of our local businesses and keeping them in Kewaunee County. A perfect example of this is I had a conversation just a few days ago with a manufacturer in our county. They have a need to expand. They have a need to expand and to add 30 jobs to this county, and they can't right now. We don't have the capacity to take that on. So that puts that company at risk for potentially getting a better offer someplace else. It also strengthens our position to leverage additional funding from private partners and secure state or federal grants, multiplying the impact of every county dollar that is invested. This increased investment will allow us to pull in more external funding, ensuring that the county gets the housing it needs while also expanding the tax base. But beyond the immediate benefits, part of the need for this increased investment is to ensure we remain competitive in the economic development landscape. Across the state, there are 10 communities that are already a part of the Thrive program, with Kewaunee being one of them. At least 7 of them are actively pursuing housing as part of their projects. Several of these communities are much further down the road on housing than we are, putting us at risk of being left behind. The additional investment will allow us to keep pace or even move ahead by accelerating our work and advancing these projects ahead of other counties. We've already secured a lot of private sector support behind this initiative. We have at least 20 of our largest employers that are in support of this project, but we need the county's partnership in raising its investment as the private sector follows the public's lead. And if you look at our revenues and where they come from in the percentages, the private sector is always just a hair behind where the public is. This is a strategic investment, and I want to stress the word investment. Investment in economic development is truly that. It is an investment. It is not a cost. It has a high return associated with it, not just in jobs, talent retention, economic activity. And by stepping up the funding now, the county will not only ensure that we can deliver on Project Homestead, but unlock future opportunities that will keep us competitive well into the future. In conclusion, we've made substantial progress with the resources that we have had. And Project Homestead is just one example of the strategic high-impact initiatives we are undertaking. But to continue to deliver this level of value, we need to increase capacity and accelerate these projects. By increasing the county's investment, you will be ensuring that we not only complete Project Homestead, but also scale other projects that address our workforce and housing needs, grow the tax base, and keep Kewaunee County competitive for years to come. I encourage all of you to consider the long-term return on the investment that is before you and the economic value that will come from it. A final note is our Project Homestead is very innovative. It is outside the box, so much to the point that I was just informed today that at the State Economic Summit that is currently going on in La Crosse, our project is being talked about by New North, our regional economic development organization, highlighting how our area is being innovative at addressing these challenges. So we are being very forward thinking, and I would like to say that a lot of the concerns that have been brought up to me, to our organization, the ones that Dan spoke of as well, are from many years ago. And I like to subscribe to an attitude of, if you want to contribute to the future, you cannot be stuck in the past. And we are at a moment in time where we have the ability to make things significantly improved. With that, in your packet is also a list of some of the other things that we've accomplished over the course of the last year. It's not all encompassing, but it gives you a broad snapshot of who we are, what we do. And like I always wrap up every presentation with the county board, I'm more than willing to sit down with each and every one of you, have coffee, have a beer, glass of wine, whatever is your drink of choice, and tell you about the work that we do, tell you what I do on a day-to-day basis and how it impacts our community. With that, if there's any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. Otherwise,
Supervisor Poppy?
I'd like to clear the air on one thing, Ben, that you started this meeting out. I sat at that finance meeting on October 4th. I know Chairman Olson, I know Administrator Kroll, and I believe I did asked if anybody wants to speak more than once. At that time, nobody said a word about it. You didn't stand up and speak your piece. You didn't do anything. Then I got up. I know I didn't get up. I sat up and said, I do support KCDC, but I do strongly believe that we deserve a quarterly report if we're going to support $40,000. Yeah, and I think that's fair to this board to get that report, and we received nothing this year at all. I sat on that board for almost 10 years, and I think that was what I stressed the hardest was this board deserves a report. So I wanted to clear the air on that. Thank you.
I have a question as well. On your KCEDC revenues, it's 40.8% public, 38.8% private. Can you tell me where does that public come from? What part of that is from the county? What are other entities, City of Kewaunee, Village of Luxembourg, City of Algoma? What are they putting in?
Correct. So that 40% includes the county's investment. We do receive investment from the city of Algoma. We do receive investment from the city of Kewaunee. We also receive in-kind services from the village of Luxembourg. Those amounts fluctuate from year to year. I would say the Algoma typically invests $5,000 each year based on their population and based on their room tax revenue. The city of Kewaunee regularly had invested $4,000 to the KCEDC. That has stepped down over the last couple of years due to their own budget situation. We also receive investments from some of the townships as well. The town of Anape being one of those, town of Pierce. So those amounts stay the same. Sometimes they change.
Other questions? All right, thank you. Yeah, oh, wait, one went up late. Supervisor Shelton. Oh, there we go. Sorry, Supervisor Patrici is first.
One thing I was gonna say was that, before I got on the KCDC board, I was pretty critical of KCDC and, Project Homestead as well. And being in the meetings, I do see a great potential from KCDC. I do think there's room for improvement. That being said, cutting off the funding, or not giving the request for increase of funding, is not a very good way to see the changes and get that potential that I do see there, to be met.
Supervisor Shelton?
In the annual report you provided in the packet, it shows that almost 80% of the KCDEC expenses comes from salary and employment. On the KCED website, you and Ava are the two staff members. I guess my question is, how does this additional funding that you're requesting lead to value added to the county since the salaries are 80% of the expenses?
Sure. The simple answer to that is, and I guess Wendy, you're familiar as you have served on our KCEDC board as well. A significant portion of my time is invested in doing what I am doing right now, making sure I am talking to all of our investors, making sure that I am presenting them updates and giving them information. So with that extra $20,000, I don't have to have that amount of time dedicated to making sure that we survive. We can allocate that to additional staff people to assist with BRE or to assist with something that we haven't even seen yet come in Project Homestead. The reality is when you compare the funding level that KCEDC has and the economic development within our county, we are underfunded compared to almost every other county in the state of Wisconsin. If you want to look at usually Oconto is a good measure of their operating budget is a little bit less than Kewaunee counties, and every year they put $120,000 to their economic development initiatives, and that's for paying a person. So I am a boots on the ground, full-time person navigating all of these things for the organization. And currently, right now, yes, we have a youth apprentice, Eva, who does some marketing and newsletters for us. She's part-time, only a few hours a week. We also used to have another part-time person, which now is just working for the chamber. So we do as much as we can with the limited resources that we have. So it's really about making us competitive and giving us the flexibility to accelerate on these projects.
And the KCEDC is in the administrator's proposed budget at $40,000. So I mean, I don't know what conversations have been taking place about eliminating that. Yes,
Thanks for coming and giving the presentation tonight, Ben. I think that was very informative. Again, with the chair, I don't know where it came up that we were going to defund it. I know there was some conversation about an increase. The 40,000, was never aware that we were looking at cutting it, and I don't believe we are. As far as an increase, I think that could still be something that could be discussed. But we were never going to cut the funding, so.
Yeah, and basically, this conversation happens a lot, and I'm basing the concern over our funding security largely over comments that Supervisor Romden made at the Finance Committee about he thought that the funding should have been cut years ago. So that is always there. I understand that is his stance and his opinion, and he's entitled to that. But I wanted to make sure that I had the opportunity to provide some context around some of the work and the things that we are doing. And also to address your comments as well, Supervisor Poppy, I completely understand the desire for quarterly updates in a report or a presentation or things like that. And I will admit this year we did not deliver on that as well as we probably could have. That's certainly on myself and something that I certainly own and would look to improve on in the future.
all right. Any other questions? Supervisor Shelton?
And I would just also like to point out, I looked at the website and the website has the appearance of being very good, but it's not up to date.
What is
The-
not up to date?
The KCEDC website.
But I'm sorry,
So
but
the
what's
new-
out of
so-
date?
So the new supervisors are not on there, and it also has the email or the address for the old website on the new website.
The supervisors, what supervisors?
So Joanne Lazansky, we have two new supervisors on the KCEDC board, correct?
We do.
But they're not on the website.
Well, the part-time person that left the organization was our website host and website manager. So we are doing the best that we can right now with a recent high school student trying to figure out and learn how to manage a website. So that's one of the challenges of being an army of 1.5, is wearing all of the different hats, whether that's marketing, website design, generating reports, generating weekly newsletters, going out and doing business retention expansion, writing grants, and so on and so forth. So thank you for pointing that out. I'll make sure that gets corrected.
Are there any other questions? Supervisor Shelton? Oh, you're still there. Sorry. Guess that was a holdover from last time. All right, seeing no further questions. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to the administrator's report. Mr. Kroll.
Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. I can be very brief tonight. I think anything that I would typically talk about would come up under resolutions this evening anyways. I did just want to highlight a couple of different things. As you know, of course, we're right in the heart of our budget process, and with the books being distributed last month, tonight you also have a handout that looks like a printout of a spreadsheet that's before you. That was prepared by Paul, our finance director, and has any changes between the time the book was published and now. Most of that is simply adjustments in where we had estimates in the budget because final numbers weren't available. And you'll see that as you go through that there's a variety of small adjustments or, you know, adjustments from estimates. And everything that's on that handout was also approved by Finance Committee in the two meetings since we last met as a county board. So that's there for you as well as your budget book. And I want to just reiterate, you know, myself and Paul are more than available and we'll drop whatever we need to in order to help you if you have any questions or wanted to explore anything else with the budget. So that's our biggest priority this time of year, and we're certainly there for you if you have any needs along those things. So please get in touch if you do have any questions.
Oh,
Sir.
I was gonna ask if there was any questions for you if you're, were you?
Yep,
were
I
you
was,
finished? Okay.
good timing. Yes, I was just tailing off. So
Didn't mean to cut you off. Sorry about that.
perfect.
Supervisor Lukes.
There's a decrease in the health insurance. Did they change the deductible or that it went down?
So that was based primarily on our utilization experience this year. Claims have been in really good shape this year. So the models that the health insurance company uses actually showed us being able to do without much of an increase. And the plan should stay healthy.
There we go. New administrator has everybody out jogging in the morning before work. That's keeping everybody fit and healthy, taking care of those claims. All right. Any other questions for Mr. Kroll? All right, very well. Committee reports. Are there any questions on any of the reports that you have reviewed?
I have.
Okay.
I have-
Supervisor Poppy.
Yes, I have one on the Highway Solid Waste Committee report for August 15th. If you look at the very last part where the meetings are scheduled, it was scheduled for tomorrow, October 17th. That is not correct. It's the 24th at 7 o'clock in the morning. So don't everybody come tomorrow at 7. It's not gonna be there.
All right, thank you Supervisor
Thank you.
Poppy.
Thank you.
Supervisor Shelton, I think this one's for real, right?
This one is for real.
Okay.
I have 4 questions on 4 different reports, but
You have to
it
push
shouldn't
your
take that
button
long.
4 times.
For the Highway Solid Waste Committee, when will the work on Highway C between L and Clyde Hill Road begin? Does anyone know that?
Hmm.
Run that through me again.
When will the
sorry.
work, so in the minutes, it said that there would be work on Highway C between L and Clyde Hill Road?
Yes, next
When
year.
is it?
Next
Next
year.
year. The road is looking so wonderful, but I'd like to enjoy it for a
You're
little
not
bit.
driving on it. It's just
Oh,
closed.
no,
Okay.
no. Okay, if I can go on to the next one, Land and Water Committee, there were audits done. That for manure hauling audits, there were 7 done, there were 4 compliant, there were 3 non-compliant. Missed well setback spread on less than 2 feet to bedrock, spread within setback of feature contributing to groundwater. What happens to the people who are non-compliant?
The people that are non-compliant will be given a citation. That citation will go to Corp Council at that time and they will be fined for not following their compliance.
That's 2.
3, so the union, the collective bargaining, there was on Association Proposal 5, this was struck from the record, D theft. Proven employee theft shall be automatic grounds for discharge. That was stricken. I'm just
Yeah.
wondering what that conversation was like.
You want me to take it or you want to take that, Mr. Kroll? And basically what it amounted to is that we were listing, it is still the case that they would be fired.
Yeah.
But you were listing something that is mandatory anyway, and you're not listing other things. Does that make sense?
Okay,
Am I explaining that
so
clearly?
it was covered in other parts of the contract.
Yeah, we're not, I think the sheriff,
I
the
was
sheriff
like,
would,
that's the other thing
you
to
know,
take out.
we're not permitting stealing. I mean, that didn't become okay because of the change in wording. Now you better clean this up a little.
Yeah, I'll just speak to it really briefly along those lines. Mr. Chair was correct that essentially it's carving out one particular behavior for one particular action. And if you were going to do that, you'd name all kinds of other different behaviors that are illegal and inconsistent with solid law enforcement practice. So it was just kind of a one-off situation that in reality, if there's any misconduct that's, criminal like a theft, it's going to be thoroughly investigated and the appropriate action is going to be taken, whether or not it's in the contract.
It's a good question because that was immediately the contract, the union bargaining committee immediately, questioned that. And when we were given the explanation by the union representative, yeah, that makes sense. Proven theft is still a problem.
Okay,
Yeah, we didn't make that okay.
okay.
All right.
Last question, for the Board of Health, which vaccines will be given at the 2024-25 vaccine clinics in the schools?
Which vaccine clinics, 24-25 clinic? We give a number of them. So we're doing the school law vaccines, which would be DTaP, polio, MMR, and varicella for young children. But then the school law changed this year, so for 7th grade entrants, meningococcal and Tdap are required, but also seniors are required a Tdap if they haven't had it previously, as well as meningococcal. So at different ages, there's different ones. In addition, we will be offering flu in some of the schools. Okay. Kewaunee and Algoma will have mass flu clinics. Luxembourg Casco will have it after school, where parents are tested.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any others? That was 4. That was the total. Supervisor Teske. How many questions do you have? Just one.
And it's not even a question.
Okay.
I just want to let the county board know that at the Wisconsin Counties Association Conference in La Crosse in September, our own Human Services Director, Melissa Anoy, along with other individuals, received the Wisconsin Local Government Leadership Academy Award and recognition. So I just wanted our county board to know that she was awarded that.
Very good. Thank you. Congratulations. Any other questions on any of the reports that you have reviewed? All right. We will move on then to first reading of ordinance. We have none. And we'll go on to consideration of resolutions, if you're prepared for the first resolution.
A resolution granting the petition for bridge aid, Town of Red River, fiscal impact 7,900 from County Aid Bridge Fund.
I have a motion from Supervisor Poppy, a second from Supervisor Romden. Is there discussion? Any questions? All right, you may register your vote. I have 18 yes, none opposed. Motion carries. Whenever you're ready for the next resolution.
A resolution approving budget adjustment for the Public Health Department, 2024. Fiscal impact, additional 37,113 of grant revenue, additional 38,121 of grant-related expenditures, with $1,008 of required match from fund balance.
Okay, motion by Supervisor Romden, second by Supervisor Patricia. Are there any questions on that motion? Any discussion? All right, you may register your vote. We have 18 yes, none opposed. Motion carries. Whenever you're ready for the next resolution.
A resolution authorizing an application for and acceptance of county conservation aids for use at Bremer Park. Fiscal impact, $1,200 county contribution, $1,200 grant from DNR.
I have a motion by Supervisor Yonke, a second by Supervisor Gillett. Is there any discussion of that motion? Any questions on the motion? Seeing none, you may register your vote. 18 yes, none opposed. It's a very agreeable group here this evening. Whenever you're ready for the next resolution.
A resolution approving the collective bargaining agreement with WPPA Sheriff's Department. Fiscal impact is currently staffed, estimated wage and related benefits to increase by $57,750 for 25, already budgeted. $94,660 for 26, and $48,430 for 27.
Motion by Supervisor Romden, second by Supervisor Vollenweider. I do want to say on this motion, I want to express my appreciation to the supervisors who served on that subcommittee. I believe the county was very well served. I also want to thank Corporation Counsel and particularly the administrator. The administrator was our point man and I felt did an outstanding job. Also want to thank the chief deputy who was the administration, sheriff administration present on that, proved to be very helpful as well. And I even would express my appreciation to the union. They came in with a, they negotiated, they bargained in good faith. And as a result, we were able to get to a reasonable agreement, perhaps slightly higher than what I would have liked, but probably a lot lower than what they would have liked. So that's the way it goes. But I thought that the negotiations did run well, and I think that the agreement that you have before you, I think, is very reasonable. Are there any questions, any other discussion on that? Oh, Supervisor Romden. But that's easy to do. Yes. All right. Thank you. Supervisor Swaggle.
So with what it says for fiscal impact statement, what was the increase for specifically or approximately?
Well, that's in the,
Wages or,
it's in the packet.
yeah, I know, I'm
in
reading
the-
through it, but I didn't find exactly explanation of it.
Let's get to the page. Somebody have the page handy? Let me flip over there. Okay, so if you look at the under resolution, the resolution, I don't have page numbers, but approving the collective bargaining agreement with WPPA Sheriff's Department. You'll see in there the fiscal impact where it's at the bottom, right?
Yes, correct.
So you see it, the number?
Yes,
The part that's already budgeted for 2025.
correct.
26 and 27 listed
So where's
there
that explained in this?
in the
What page of-
agreement. So you're looking for the, are you looking for the percentages? That would be,
Is that what it is, sir?
if you look at the percentages on the next page where it says 105.
105?
If you look at
Okay.
2025, it says 2%
Okay,
effective
all right, thank you,
January.
sir.
Okay,
Okay, that explains it. Very good. Thank you, sir.
all right,
I
problem.
read through it and I didn't see how that dollar figure figured. Thank you.
sure.
Okay.
Any other questions on that? Any further discussion? Very well. You may register your vote. Supervisor Brown is, oh, there we go. 18 yes, none opposed. All right, whenever you're ready for the next resolution.
Intention to join the statewide public safety interoperable communication system for Kewaunee County. Fiscal impact, the current best estimate is purchase of about 1.2 million of radio equipment to be paid for by 960,000 of grant revenue, 108,600 of county match, and 131 for, I think I'm actually reading an old one. Okay, let me try again. Sorry. Fiscal impact, total estimated cost to replace radio equipment is 1,682,374 with grant revenue of 1,345,898. County match for county radios of 106,850. And other agency match for agency radios of 229,626.
Okay. I have a motion by Supervisor Baker, a second. Whoa, yes. Supervisor Crowe.
I would just point out that the clerk was reading from an older version of the resolution that was in the agenda packet. That was amended and updated based on newer information that is the loose handout. that each supervisor had at their station today.
So each supervisor should have this freestanding paper that is current in front of them. Yes, sir, Supervisor Augustine.
Question on the fiscal impact, does that include replacing all the towns and villages, fire stations and EMTs? Or are they on the hook to replace those radios if we go through this ourselves? That was a question by one of our town officials.
That's an excellent question. Sheriff, you want to answer it? We haven't had you up here tonight yet. Unneeded, right? Now you're wanted.
So again, state your question. I apologize.
The fiscal impact, are the towns and villages on the hook for their local fire and EMTs to replace all their radios to match, or does that come out of this money to replace all the towns and villages radios too?
Correct. So this was the grant, the way it's written is it's one application per county. So I'm currently literally going through that application process, and that will be covering all entities. So your highway department, emergency management, your first responders, rescue and fire, and local PDs. So that's all captured in that 80-20 match. So again, they are granted the same 80%. They just have to meet that 20%.
Okay, any other questions on this? Well, we have the sheriff up here.
Just for clarification, the handout that we had at finance tonight that showed the breakdown by all the villages, towns and cities, does everyone have that? Because then that would say exactly what the match would be.
I don't believe so.
No, I don't believe so either. That is as was stated. That's a moving number. Actually, while I was here, I just got a call from one of the fire departments. They're all still getting back to me on their inventories. I've got 3 left to go. So we're getting there. I'm hoping by end of day tomorrow, I'll have those knocked down. And then we can, I'll be meeting with Paul, then we can apply that to that spreadsheet. So it's a moving number yet, but it's pretty tight. Most of our biggest entities like ourselves, highway and our fire departments have all pretty much chimed in. So there's a few loose ones out there, and then we'll be able to plug that in and have a more accurate
But
report.
that's also based on the inventory that you were given from all of the different areas by quantities of portables and all of that. And then, yeah, the dollar amounts are pretty close.
Correct.
Okay, any other questions? Any further discussion? Supervisor Swagel?
Now, Sheriff, you had said this must be done because of compatibility and with the other counties and with the whatever system, forgot the name of the systems and the systems. What were they, sir?
No, absolutely. So as a background, over a decade ago, we made a choice to align ourselves with the state, and it's called the WISCOM Interoperability Communication System. So now we're fast forward over a decade. Of course, like anything with technology, it's become end of life, and they're doing a reboot of it. So one of the biggest parts of that sort of reintegration is going to be going from VHF to 800. That's a different frequency band of radios. That requires us to then turn over all these radios. That's a positive, as we will now be in alignment with Brown County, who is already 800, Manitowoc County is already 800, and Door County, I've just spoke with their director yesterday, that is working towards 800. Their transition date is approximately 2028. They're doing their own system on their own dime. We are very fortunate that as the state is building this out this time, they're bundling the whole thing together and they're including our local subsystems. So the expectation, the deliverable is 95% portable coverage at the hip at the state's cost.
At what
That's
time
huge.
approximately?
We're probably about 2 to 3 years out. They're starting up in the northeast
okay.
quadrant. They're gonna go down to the southeast quadrant and then work up to east central where we are. So we're about 2 to 3 years out, but we want to be leaning forward on these radio procurements because we don't want to wait until the system's ready to go and then say, okay, let's find some radios. So we're definitely leaning forward, which I am okay with.
Supervisor Kinnard?
Yeah, Matt, I know previously 10 years ago, there was a lot of concern, I know, in the village of Casco with our fire department, with our first responders, with radios not working, couldn't talk when you were in certain places. Is that going to be better? It sounds like it's going to be from what you just said.
Yes, I mean, 10 years of progress and technology is a big part of it, but also our governance structure. When we look at the hosting agency a decade ago, it was in flux. We were in the middle of trying to roll out a system, and then at the state, they were jumping from one agency to another. I was in the middle of it. I've been the chair of the interoperability for over a decade. So I've watched this transition. This initiative, the interoperability initiative, is housed now under the Department of Military Affairs and the Office of Emergency Communications. You couldn't find a more solid agency to be housed under. So they've got the governance piece down pat. The technology is another piece of it. The biggest part is the deliverable in the contract with L3 Harris. So the current system is operating under an E.F. Johnson vendor. The new one will be L3 Harris. In the contract, the contract deliverable is 95% portable coverage at the hip. That was not in effect in that first go around. So that's a big change, that it's not a matter of how many sites, it's a matter of deliverables. So before it was based on sites, and whatever the sites got us, the sites got us. In this one, the way it's worded is the expectation, the deliverable is 95% portable. So that will be conducted or arrived at through drive tests to be able to say, do we have it or don't we have it? So yeah, I met with EMS. I'll be meeting with the fire chiefs in a few weeks. So I'm well aware of the anxiety. I was in it. I was actually hoping I wouldn't be part of it again, but here I am. So we're going to go through this, and it is my hope and my obligation that we're going to make this much less painful. One of the reasons I asked the state to roll out some of these other regions first, we were kind of on the front side last time. I said, I'd rather not be the guinea pig. Let's go ahead and roll out those things in other areas, get your learning curve down, and then come to Kewaunee County. So we're going to have learned a lot even in the new system by the time it gets here.
Supervisor Poppy?
Yeah, I have one question on our infrastructure on the towers that we have. Are there big changes going to happen to those towers to output the 800 system?
Yes, so I mean, the tower sites remain valid. Those are all
Yep.
perfectly good tower sites. We built West Kewaunee, Carlton, Luxembourg Fairgrounds. We have a joint project with Door County Pistol Range, that's a joint owned. And then I think those are our three.
My question was, what changes do we have to make to those towers to be compatible to this new system?
We won't. They'll be bringing in all that equipment. So again, this is going to be done by the state. One of the reasons is when we did it the first time, they did this, what we call the core sites. So I think at the time there's like 120 around the state to allow for mobile-based 95% coverage for statewide interoperability. In Kewaunee County, we built out what we call a subsystem. Those are our tower sites. So we equip those, we maintain them over the last 10 years. The change here is the state doesn't want multiple people in on these systems. They want to maintain it. They want to limit how many fingers are in it, which makes sense. So they've said, we're going to build it and we want to maintain it. That way we've got full control over it. So what they're going to do, it's going to be a smooth transition. For those that were around 10 years ago, at like 3 p.m. on a Wednesday, we literally flipped the switch and it went from VHF analog to VHF digital. And we had a lot of learning to do because we had programs that were not where they should have been. And it was painful. This time they're doing a soft transition. They're literally going to take our VHF equipment, move it down the tower to be able to put the newest stuff at the, what do you want to say, the optimal place, run the systems in tandem so that we can make that transition. And when everybody's comfortable, then they'll shut down the VHF system. So it's a whole different approach to how we're going to transition from one to the next.
So are you saying the state is paying for that upgrade on those towers?
Correct.
Okay. Gotcha. Thank you. That's what I wanted to know.
Supervisor Brown?
I guess kind of important too, that the state will be maintaining this equipment too, so.
This is a big deal. I mean, we think about a radio system, and I'm gonna wait to get the numbers, but if you ever in your counterparts, talk to your counterparts at Brown, Manitowoc, and Door, and what they're spending, and what we're currently, I mean, we've been getting lucky because we basically have been limping along in a time and material, no contracts. But like this last time, over the last few years, we've been getting some significant bills as this equipment's becoming end of life. So this is gonna be huge that the state has taken on that obligation. All we have to do now is one phone call. Hey, this is going on. What do we have? So it's a big deal as far as maintenance, and it's going to be a big deal as far as capital outlay.
All right, any other questions? There's no further discussion. You may register your vote. There we go. 18 yes, none opposed. Motion carries. Moving on to consideration of ordinance read at previous county board meeting, we have none. Communications from other counties, we have none. Are there Kewaunee County events? All right, no Kewaunee County events. All right, we will move on then. I have no comments other than what I already made regarding the union negotiations. The meetings are set for November and December. January 14th at 6 p.m. is the proposed. Is there a motion? We want that on the pads? Motion? Yeah. Push it on the pad there, Supervisor Romden.
Oh, no, it's not.
Okay, Supervisor Ramda makes the motion. Is there a second? Supervisor Augustine? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, do we have a motion for adjournment on here? Okay, somebody want to make a motion to adjourn? Supervisor Baker, second by Supervisor Ramden. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you.